So growing up, cars were everything to me, and being born in England meant one thing: European, boring four-cylinder or six-cylinder cars. But my dad had a love for American muscle, and that did mean a 1982 Pontiac Trans Am Knight Rider, and also other things like Plymouth Grand Fury station wagons. And for me, it wasn't just about what the car was attached to, whether it was a wagon or a saloon or a two-door or a four-door. It was that V8 rumble. So when my dad took me when I was like 15 years old to see the first ever Fast and Furious film, my heart just exploded. As soon as that 1970 Dodge Charger rolled down the road, I was like, Dad, can we go find it? Like, I want it. And then Travis Bell had the opportunity and threw it in the bin. What a plonker. But then it kind of went on to Too Fast, Too Furious, which, growing up, being a younger gentleman, the modified kind of S2000s and the Evos and the Eclipses were the sort of cars I really loved. But then nailed home with the Dodge Challenger and the Camaros and those sort of like races where the Camaro ended up on the boat at the end. The Too Fast, Too Furious did leave my heart pounding out of my chest. But when Tokyo Drift came out, it was a proper curveball. And I actually will admit right here on this channel that the Tokyo Drift film was my favourite. Not only because the young lad that was clearly 35 in the movie pretending to be at college had this 1971 Monte Carlo. He built it in the shop class, he wasn't scared of being different, and he built a badass roll cage car which drove through a house in the middle of a building site. Like, it was quite literally amazing. And that film for me was quite funny because it was like the Matt Armstrong kind of idea of hard work beats talent. That amazing Monte Carlo was trying to build that off-the-shelf daddy car Viper. And for me, that was the heartwarming thing, that maybe I can build a piece of crap that will beat someone, and maybe a girl will fall in love with me because I think I'm cool with my V8. Maybe that's not the case, but life is still good today. But one of the main cars that stood out in that film could be classed as the world's worst, in Craig Liebman's words, or the world's best, in other people's words, which was Bow Wow's Volkswagen Touran, which they basically produced between 2003 and 2006. And in England, that is quite literally one of the worst cars in the world. You've got a Volkswagen Golf, jammed some compressed air up its and just blown it up to this horrible MPV with a big trunk, and it was never ever in the world to be modified, let alone to have a purple fluffy dashboard being basically crowded by Hulk figures and Hulk fists and footprints resonating out of the amazing coachwork. But do you know what? The car had a piece in my heart. He would never sell the steering wheel. He had his cash in the trunk underneath a subwoofer, and it was his pride and joy. He didn't care what anyone thought. It was his passion basically devoted to that vehicle, which we all do every single day. Because I love the muscle cars of the movie that Vin Diesel at the end of the film pulled up in, and those kind of cars, and the Monte Carlo at the beginning, that car was amazing and iconic, and one of the most awesome European cars ever in the series. I never imagined the love or the passion behind me for that car until one day I was sat at home doing what we all do, throwing our life savings away for FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And we scroll through Marketplace of like, what don't we need and what do we need? And I don't know about you lovely people, but when you add yourself to a Fast and the Furious Builders Club or a Mopar Club, as you flurry through the Marketplace, you come across the stuff that is in those groups. So when I opened my phone, I clicked on Marketplace and I saw these two green doors. I kind of assumed that they were in America or somewhere else because, you know, you always get fed this feed from the groups and the clubs you're part of. And I was like, hang on, I recognize these doors. And I clicked on them and I looked at the doors and I thought, do you know what? They look like the front doors from Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. And you couldn't really basically misconstrued that because there's not another door in the world that has got a punch or a foot mark hanging out from the inside outwards on any other car I've ever seen in my life. And I thought, do you know what, I'll click on it because it's probably one of my groups, it's probably in America, and it said 1 mile away. I clicked on it and zoomed in, and it was registered on the page 3 minutes beforehand. So I messaged the gentleman and said, where are these? I know it's Saturday and I'm working from 9 till 5, but I will leave my job right now and come and look at them. He said, I'm out for lunch at the moment, but you're first in line. I said, oh, I've got a YouTube channel, and I'm not being rude, I love Fast and Furious cars. He went, oh, what is it? I said, Hard Up Garage. He went, oh, I've seen your video on VINwiki about the NAS Charger. My kids love your story on the Lightning McQueen car. But 100% you can have first refusal. So I thought, do you know what? I can stay at work till 5, phone the wife, babe, I'm going to be home late. And I phoned and messaged the guy throughout the day, and we were talking about different things and where he found these doors. And it was quite funny how something so close to me can be so close to my heart. It's a mile away. In England, which is, it takes 10 hours to go top to bottom, if you wanted to. But to have those doors close to me, it felt like my stars have finally aligned. If they were in Spain, I would have still got on a boat and got there. I mean, it was meant to be. And I phoned my wife and said, babe, I'm going to be home late. I'm going to go buy some doors. She's like, you don't need doors. You got enough crap resonating in the hallways of our house that we don't need a set of doors. And I explained to her what it meant. And she went, do you know what? You've never lost money on stuff. Go do it. But I phoned the guy and said, I know you're after £500, which is about $700. Would you consider selling them to me for £300 and I'll give you $100,000 in Fast and Furious money? And he went, what? I said, yes. So basically, Fast and Furious Live was an action show which depicted the Fast and Furious story in a live arena action performance. And basically, they had a safe that was dragged around by the Dodge Chargers, and they threw these Fast and Furious $100 bills out the top, which then the crowds could go down and collect as a memento of being at the show. And he went, okay, no worries. My kids love what you do. Let's do it. So I was basically quivering in my boots for the next 5 hours, worrying that someone was going to undercut me or give him more money. At 5 o'clock, I ran home, I went to the loft and got 100 grand out of the loft in fake money. It's worth about $10. And I loaded it in the car and I went to this man's house. Took my camera, of course, and as you'll see in my video, it was imperative. I asked the gentleman, would you like to be in a YouTube video? And he said 100%. And we went to this little tiny 2-bedroom house in the middle of England and went through his back garden, and this gentleman collected film memorabilia. So Nightmare on Elm Street, he had a massive, huge gremlin, full-size gremlin puppet, one of 100 ever made, which was basically an exact puppet of what they used in the movie. He opened this rickety shed and the doors flung open, and there was these 3 orange boxes at the bottom, which we'll get to in a minute. But basically, on top of it, he moved the gremlin out, a Ghostbusters Lego came out the way, and he dragged these doors out, and they were bright green, metallic, and all they had was these little imperfection spot marks, which is basically micro blistering when something gets left for a while in a damp area. And I basically got the photos from Universal Studios and zoomed in, because every single door on that car is completely different. So basically on the passenger side door, you have fists, which are basically like this. So a left hand and a right hand, you've got a small punch and then a big punch. So basically it looks like he's tried to punch out the left hand side of the car, but on the right hand side, it completely changes completely. So you've got the right hand fist over on this door, and then you've got the left hand fist on this door, but they've been reversed. So whoever made them basically reversed the molding, so the bigger one was on this side, but the image had been completely replicated, but in reverse. So I knew that the fists themselves were basically replicated in exactly the same position. So either someone has gone out of their way to make these doors exactly perfect, or they were the real deal. And then I went onto YouTube, and there was a guy called Jorge in Canada. And this gentleman here had one of the biggest collections in the world of replicas which he and his team built, or actual movie used cars. And he basically made a real Hulk car, which was Bow Wow's car, made a replica of it. So he watched the film and worked out where the little divots on your fists go and how it all went, and made a replica to the best of his ability. And he said one of the biggest problems were in the 3D printing or even the fiberglass making of the molds was the hand shapes in the divot where your fist goes, because you couldn't see it perfectly in the film, and he says those were the hardest bits to replicate. And on this car, I tapped them, and they were clearly either very small fiberglass or plastic, and you could knock them like maybe a vacuum mold had made them. I knocked them, and I could feel that they weren't polystyrene or a foam that had been covered in filler and made. They were a molding. So I was like, right, okay, brilliant, that's pretty good. And as I turned around the door, I could see a red X, which is quite common on movie cars. You could normally find out this is where we're doing something, and they mark it as a movie standard. And there was rivet marks all the way around the outside. So these weren't just bonded to the doors, they were proper made and formed in their locations. And they still have the support bars, the crash bars in the doors, but I can't tell if the crash bars on most doors, so as I'm sat in this chair here, this arm here would replicate where the crash bar would be. So if someone hit it, it would basically have a straight point for someone to basically deflect it out of the car. what I found was on this car, they were at like a 45-degree angle. And if someone was going to just make these as a replica, you'd probably leave those in and just filler and fiberglass and foam the outsides and not worry about the relocation of that crash bar. That could be a detail that resonates the truth, or it could be something that's on every single Volkswagen Touran in a door structure. But for me, everything was becoming real. And he said to me, I got these doors 15 years ago. And a friend of mine, he said, worked at Universal Studios and brought lots of stuff back in a crate with him. So he had lots of movie props or parts of the vehicles that he developed over the years working for Universal, or the company that supplied them to Universal. So in my opinion, I don't feel that someone would replicate that car a year or two after the film was out. They were popular movies, but the recreation side of making Fast and Furious cars wasn't an actual thing back then, I don't think. But I could be wrong, and there's people screaming at me telling me they made these cars back in the day. But that was a very, very small car of the series that wasn't really recognisable. So I kind of don't think it was something that someone would go out and do. And in Jorge's video, if you get a chance to look at it, he does mention that he made the first ever replica in the world. So for me, these doors are real. All I need to do is knock on Bow Wow's door and see if he can sign them, and then the price will go up. If not, I need to know from you people at home, shall I build the car? Because these cars in England, I know they weren't available in America, but these cars in England are £500, right? $800. And I can pick them up in diesel, gasoline, they're all different types, but they're very, very easy to get hold of. And I feel that has to be one of the easiest cars to replicate in the series in some ways, unless you're buying a F-150 Lightning and you're going to put the racing club on the door. It's got to be quite an easy one. I've already got 2 pieces of the puzzle. All I need to do is kick the boot out and make a boot print, and also replicate these fist prints for the other 2, and then 1 on the wing, put like a mustache on the roof, paint it green, and get Donna from Abshot Signs to put some stickers on the bonnet. I feel that I could make this car quite quickly and at quite a small budget. I need to know from you people at home if that's something I should be doing. But underneath these 2 doors, which we came to an agreement, I gave him the $100,000 in readies and the £300. He had some other memorabilia. And last year I was fortunate enough to marry my beautiful wife in Las Vegas, and I also got to drive through one of the most famous chapels in the world where Britney Spears and Frank Sinatra have been married. I wanted to do something that resonated in my wife's preference. So her favourite films were Christine and Back to the Future. So I phoned a good friend of mine, Bob's Props. He's a very, very knowledgeable chap when it comes to building movie cars or also recreations. And I said, do you have a Back to the Future DeLorean? He said, 100% I do. And we did a drive-through wedding in a Back to the Future DeLorean. So she was a jolly girl. I dressed up as Marty McFly, a bigger and less pretty version, but you know, albeit I did my best. And then I've never given her something of the film or the franchise that she loves. It was absolutely one of the most amazing days of my life. I got to be with my beautiful lady and all my friends, and it cost me about $300 to get married, so I cannot complain. Which takes me back to what was underneath these doors. And I hadn't bought my lovely lady a wedding present yet because she doesn't really have much want. What she needs, we get, we make it work. And there were these 3 bright orange boxes, which basically, even though it was dark, they looked like they were glowing, like they had LEDs in them. And all I can explain to you is there's a perspex they used to make that was basically bright orange, and it looked like the thing was glowing. And he basically told me that in the early 2000s, when the Hard Rock Hotel shut down in England, all these amazing displays that were on the walls in the actual cafe or the hotel were basically renditions of movies. So you had the massive Nightmare on Elm Street metal hand with all the knives hanging on it, and a placard of him and what it was about, and it said Freddy on the side. And then you had and these things are like 4 feet by 2 feet, they're absolutely huge. Then you had a pair of boxing gloves, then the Rocky picture, and then obviously a description below. But the one thing that got my heart pounding, which I knew she would love, was the Back to the Future display. So you had this lovely picture of Marty McFly, a bit of a description about the movie, and then the DMC logo at the top. But next to it was the one thing that got my heart going. It was a full-size hoverboard, right? And it was made of metal. And you look round the ones online, which you can buy for like $100, $200. They're made of plastic. They're quite flimsy. They're a blown mold. This was a full sculpture. So it had metal bases where the pads are. All the little details on it were absolutely flawless. I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, I want it. He said, oh, you know, I gave £300 for these ages ago, and they were really expensive. We're talking over 20 years ago. £300 20 years ago was a lot of money. I know we always try and make up for the time difference, but back in the day, he said he didn't have a massively good job, and it was something to add to his collection. So I was like, would you take £300 for the Back to the Future one on its own? He goes, I couldn't do that. That's the one I want to keep. I'm a massive Back to the Future fan. I was like, okay, so what do you want for the other two? He goes, I don't know. So, well, what about if I gave you £300 for those two? Just to try and get the deal rolling, really, you know. A lot of people, when they see the green coming in, they sort of become susceptible to, oh, do you know what, a little bit more money, or a little bit more money. And I know he was having house renovations done, so I kind of got him hooked on one part. I'd already bought the doors, that was 600 quid. I said, right, I'll give you £400 for the Back to the Future one. And he went, oh, okay, let's do it. And then we opened up the shed a little bit more. And as he opened up the shed, he had this lovely framed picture of Marty McFly, and it had a certificate number at the bottom, and the signature was absolutely beautiful. Done in the late 80s, I believe, and his signature was really thought about, and you could tell the time in which he took to do it. I mean, I feel so bad for the fact that Michael J. Fox's health has deteriorated, and his Parkinson's has really, really sort of come in strong. And his signatures now, they weren't as pretty and as beautiful as they were because of his health conditions, and you could tell that this signature was an older one just because of the finesse that was put into it. I feel that may have some value, but the value was not important. This was a present for my wife. I said, how much do you pay for it? He said, well, in the late 90s, I gave £200 for that. I said, well, do you want your money back? Where are we at? He said, oh, no, I need a bit more. So I gave him £250. So it's a brilliant wedding gift. Now I'm stuck with 3 bright orange boxes that don't go anywhere in my house whatsoever, that are absolutely huge. I've got 2 massive useless Volkswagen Turandors and a picture frame which is about A4 size that isn't really going to go anywhere either. But I did spend over £1,250 of my great British pounds that I know are going to be good investments for the future. So you lovely people at home need to write in the description below, am I building a car? Am I going to find Bow Wow and put them around my neck like B.A. Baracus? Instead of a chain, I'll just carry a door around and get them to sign them. Or shall we do something with the doors? Shall we replicate them? Shall we find other Touran doors and make replicas of these ones? You need to tell me, but oh, I'm absolutely knackered. But I'm pretty sure my time and effort will be definitely needed to move forward with this project.
This month, the VINwiki Car Stories is brought to you by Extreme Experience. They give you the chance to get behind the wheel of the greatest supercars on earth at the most amazing racetracks in America. I know you'll love it. I just got the chance to drive their brand new Ferrari 296. I hadn't had the chance to drive the car. They had it in town. It was the perfect way for me to experience a great new car. But whatever your dream car is, you can drive it with Extreme Experience. It's also the perfect holiday gift for the car lover in your life. So check them out now at the link in the description below. Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, Porsche, all of it. So check them out now at the link in the description below to book your next drive with Extreme Experience.